Welcome to all of you who are joining us from around the country for Oral Histories to Virtual Reality and our online auction. I'm Elizabeth Kahn, President and CEO of the ONWARD Project. Please note Allison Fisher-Olson, our Head of Research, is ready to respond to your chats during this event. First, the ONWARD Project acknowledges the original peoples of the region where our project focuses in Northern Arizona and Southern Utah. The Navajo Nation, Hopi Tribe, Zuni, and the San Juan Southern Paiute Tribe, and all others with ties to the land. And to the Gabrielino Tongva Tribe, the original peoples of West Los Angeles and California, where the project is physically based. Coming off a year like no other, we are grateful for your ongoing support. Our current online auction has run for 4 days and will end at 6 p.m. today, Pacific Standard Time, 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, approximately an hour after this event concludes. We are excited to offer the unique one-of-a-kind items, many donated by our Native and non-Native collaborators and board members. It is from your generous participation in this auction that we will raise much needed funds to enable us to continue our work in 2021. The website is in the chat and will be on screen at points through the event. The genesis for this event actually came out of the challenges we faced in 2020 and reflecting on the strength and kinship we have felt through the isolation and sharing stories with you and with each other. I realized that the very items we were offered for auction themselves held stories that began to suggest an event narrative. And in this world of transition, I heard recently that for the second year in a row, Mountain Film Festival in Telluride was canceled, where we were to debut our virtual reality experience, nor has it been possible to travel to the Navajo Nation to collaborate. But as the second part of this event, we have the opportunity to bring to you, our audience, our followers, and our supporters, a sneak preview of this unique and immersive virtual storytelling experience. We have 7 speakers coming to us from their homes around the country. Ron Maldonado, a board member and consultant speaking from the Navajo Reservation about storytelling in Navajo tradition. Dr. Little Badger speaking about her recent illustrated book, Alotso, featured in our new Native Artist Spotlight series. She generously offered to sign 4 copies for our auction. Lithuania, a researcher with us, and her mother, Louise Donetso from Arizona, we'll talk about the beaded necklaces they so generously donated to the auction and the small run of printed books made from our online animated publication about Lithuania's grandfather, Max Littlesalt, a graphic biography with an audio Navajo translation by Max's son, Charles. And we have scarves made and donated by Louise. Allison Fisher-Olson, our head of research, will talk about Brad McKee, who participated in the 1934 season of the Rainbow Bridge Monument Valley expedition. Lisa McKee introduces her father to us. Lisa generously donated to our auction a selection of historic photographs taken by her father in the 1930s while attending public ceremonies in New Mexico. The 8 images will be added to our Stories website in an effort to meet the families of these individuals who are not yet identified and hear their stories. Dr. Annie Danis, our acting director of research programs, will talk about the embodiment of storytelling. And finally, Eric Hansen, our VR developer, will lead a personal tour in real time through his virtual reality headset. You will experience his movements as he looks at the virtual landscape models. This will give you the feeling of being immersed in this place, in these very remote protected sites in the Southwest where our project is based. He will also demonstrate with a few samplings the interactivity that allows us to hear the many different voices of people with ties to this land, who lived there in ancient times and who currently live in or around the region, or those who have worked there in historic times. The video will vary in quality as we go through the different talks. Some may be fuzzy or the audio out of sync, possibly a lag, but all of us, I think, are used to this variation and to other Zoom-related issues by now. It is the content we are excited to bring to you. Please enjoy our speakers. I will see you at the other end of the program. And now, Ron Maldonado.
Hi, my name is Ron Maldonado, and I am an archaeologist, and I live and work on the Navajo Reservation. So, I guess one of the issues that I deal with on a regular basis when I'm doing research out here is the subject of storytelling. Now, Navajos in general are the most studied people in the United States, Native people in the United States. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of books about Navajo culture, Navajo tradition, stories, that have been printed and published. So the reality of it is that each publication really focuses on a person's story. And what has happened over the years is that when you're talking to a medicine man and you're collecting, let's say, the creation story, that story, has maybe 10 versions if you're talking to 10 different people. And so what they do is they coalesce those versions into one version. So there is the creation story, which is published, which is actually pretty good. It falls over on. But it's not the official version. There is no real official version of the Navajo creation story. Now, the story goes is that when the deities gave the story to the people of how the world was created and how it was shared, is that each medicine man who was given the story was given a slightly different version, because the creation story ties in with all of the ceremonies. And so when you're having a traditional ceremony, they kind of go over the creation story a little bit. So each medicine man has a different version that he's learned from his medicine man who trained him and down for generations, for thousands of years. Now, the reason they do that is that no one medicine man knows the true, correct story of the creation, because if you knew that, then you can control basically nature, you can control the world. So storytelling essentially is how you tell it. Now, if you ask me the Navajo creation story, I would give you a version of the creation story that I have amalgamated over reading and doing research and talking to various medicine men over the years. So I've created my own creation story and how I tell it. So that's kind of it. It's kind of interesting, but storytelling is different than, I would say, in the Western world, where you try to find that perfect kind of story. A good example of that is the King James version of the Bible. They got together and coalesced the Bible and said, okay, this is the official Bible, and we're going to follow it for years. It doesn't happen that way out here on Navajo. So in Navajo, when someone is going to tell you a story, they always say in the beginning, it is said. And with that, that means that's what I heard and I'm telling you. So take care and be safe.
Oi, I'm Dr. Darcy Little Badger. I'm a Lipan Apache scientist with a PhD in oceanography. I'm also a storyteller. So I do everything from comics to short science fiction and fantasy stories to novel-length works. And helping me today is my mom, Dr. Linda Walking Woman, and she's the Director of Education and Policy, the Lipan Apache tribe. So I want to talk a little bit about my debut book, Alatsaway, which was published in August 2020. First, the title itself is a Lipan word that means hummingbird, but it's also the name of my grandmother. So this is actually a portrait that I painted of my grandma when I was in high school. And her name was Anita Alatsaway Soto. And it was important to me to name the book after her for a couple of reasons. First, the theme of family is very strong throughout Alatsaway. But more importantly, I would not be here today as a storyteller. I would not be the woman that I am without the support of my family. My mom and my grandma are two of the strongest people that I know. So I really appreciate just the positive influence that family has made in my life. And that's something that I think resonates, in the book itself. So thank you, Mom. You can tell she's helping me even right now. Thanks. Anyway, Alatsui tells the story of a Lipan teen named Ellie, who lives in a world that's very similar to ours, with a few exceptions. There's things like fairy rings that can transport people almost instantaneously from one side of the earth to the other. There's also magic, and there's vampire curses, and there's monsters, many of which are inspired by the stories that I heard as a child, the stories that my mother told me, which are traditional Lipan stories passed down through generations of Lipan people.
Hi, I'm Allison Fisher Olson, and for those of you who do not know me, I am the head of research at the ONWARD project. And today it is my pleasure to introduce to you Lisa McKee, who is one of our wonderful project collaborators and also the daughter of Charles Braden McKee, one of the expedition members in 1934. So Braden McKee participated in the Rainbow Bridge Monument Valley expedition as part of the archaeological crew. And something that I find very interesting that comes out in our archive is that Brad remarks that he would have liked to have participated in the expedition as a photographer, but the staff photographer position had already been filled by somebody, so he never got the opportunity to do that. But he returned to the expedition region for years afterwards in the late 30s and early 40s, perhaps even later than that, to photograph the landscape and the native community. And the resulting photographs are a wonderful testament to Brad's attitude toward coming into the community as an outsider. A lot of the portraits are extremely intimate and really show this feeling of ease between the people he was photographing and himself. So clearly Brad spent a lot of time forming relationships with the community as he was visiting it through the years. And I wanted to thank Lisa McKee for sharing this collection with us, because it has afforded us a really wonderful opportunity, actually years of opportunities, to take these materials back into the community and start conversations about the people in them and the stories behind them. So thank you so much to you and your family for being so open with us. And without further ado, here is Lisa McKee.
My father, Brad McKee, was a student member of the 1934 Monument Valley expedition, hiking up from Marsh Pass into the Sagi, and working with the team camped in Water Lily Canyon was the most exciting experience he'd had up to that point. After graduating from UC Berkeley in 1936, he returned to the Southwest in his spare time as a competitive amateur photographer, recording the landscape and the people. He worked in black and white in the 1930s and 1940s, though he later switched to Kodachrome in the years when we spent our summer vacations camping in the Southwest. He passed away in 2006, but I'm grateful that I have his letters that he sent from the 1934 campment and his competition prints to share with the other members of the ONWARD organization.
Hello, my name is Lithuania Donetso, and next to me is my mother, Louise Holmes Donetso, here in our home in Tucson, Arizona. First, I'd like to thank everybody for their support and following us on the ONWARD project. Thank you very much. And thank you to my family in Northern Arizona for supporting us on the Max Little Salt graphic novel. Thank you very much. And this is just a brief glimpse of my Uncle Charlie when he was doing the Navajo translation for the book. A big thank you to him for his support and allowing us to have him translate for us for the book. Thank you. So the ONWARD project will give you guys an update as to what we've been doing since the COVID this past year. But prior to the COVID, I just wanted to let you know what we were doing prior to that. So me and my mother and my family, we like to go traveling a lot, and especially here in Arizona. And since we're here in Southern Arizona, well, we go sometimes off the beaten path. And this time we wanted to explore a little bit more in depth off the beaten path. So me and my mother enrolled into a Laprody club. It's got a lot of rock hounders that are with that club. So every once in a while they'll have like a tour, and we can go to different places where you can find different rocks. So in this particular one I want to show you is my mother and we're going fire agate rock hounding, and this is south of Duncan, Arizona. Sandra Day O'Connor's father used to own a ranch out there, and this is south of Duncan, Arizona, right next to the Arizona and New Mexico border. And we learned a lot about rock hounding, especially during this trip, where they were very patient with us on what we should be looking for. So when the COVID hit, me and my mother had enrolled into a Kumuhimo class. And there's a store here in Tucson called Design and Adorn. And her name, the owner's name is Rebecca Ann Combs. And she's been here for like the last 12 years here in Tucson. And I've always gone in there, and I've always been intrigued and wanting to look at her beautiful necklaces that she created. So this past year was a good opportunity for us to enroll. And so when we did, we got these Kumuhimo discs. And just to give you an insight about what Kumuhimo is a Japanese rope braiding technique, actually. And during ancient times, in Japan, samurais used to design and adorn their braiding techniques, and they used to put it on their armor, and especially on their horses. So throughout the years, this Kumuhimo has transitioned into different wardrobes, such as the geishas. Sometimes you will see the braiding technique with their gowns, and eventually it transitioned to jewelry. So this is the disc that we use. And here is one of my projects that I'm currently working on. And what it is, we use Congo gumi, and it's just 8 strands, 8 threads, and you have a center weight bobbin, and all you do, it's a repetitive braiding technique that you use, and going back and forth, and these threads all have the beads that you're using, and you can use any kind of beads you want. So this is what we've been doing during the COVID. And just to give you a little sample of what I just finished, and which is going to be for the silent auction, is one of these strands here, and another necklace. And all of these designs are done by our good friend Rebecca Ann Combs, her husband Richard, and their great friend Alex, who have done all the designs and graciously has let their students create their own designs and to copy their designs. So thank you to Design and Adorn for letting us use their designs. And I just want to thank everybody for their support, and to please be safe and happy travels to one and all. Thank you. Yay!
We at the ONWARD Project recognize that stories are more than just words. We keep stories with us in our memories, but also in our bodies. We feel stories as much as we hear them. Stories engage all of our senses: sight, sound, smell, taste. Part of this multisensoriality, this mingled web of story and feeling, includes the world around us. The ONWARD Project was inspired by the importance of the world around us, of place and landscape in Navajo storytelling. Following this, anthropologist Tim Ingold writes, "The landscape tells, or rather is, a story. It unfolds the lives and times of predecessors who, over the generations, have moved around in it and played their part in its formation. To perceive the landscape is therefore to carry an act of remembrance." The ONWARD Project is unique in linking this timeless truth about storytelling with cutting-edge technology that allows viewers an embodied experiential engagement with Navajo storytelling, the Rainbow Bridge Monument Valley expedition history, and the magnificent landscape of the Four Corners region. It's now my pleasure to introduce the ONWARD Project's VR developer, Eric Henson. Eric is head of Blue Planet VR and a professor at the USC School of Cinematic Arts. He has worked in feature films for major visual effects houses and has worked with many clients around the world, including the Smithsonian, National Geographic, the Museum of Modern Art, and the Navajo Nation in collaboration with artist Ai Weiwei. In addition to the ONWARD Project, Eric is currently developing VR for the Dunhuang Foundation with the Magago Caves in China. And he is in development with his own VR experience in collaboration with Oculus for their popular Quest 2 wireless headsets. Eric?
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm joining you live today, actually from this beautiful spring day in Santa Monica. I'm going to be showing you a nice little preview of what we've been working on now for, I think, 3 to 4 years. And this is a virtual reality experience, but I'm going to share it by screen capturing what I see through the headset. So this will be just kind of a rough idea of what it is actually like to have a headset, which is much more compelling. But I think it'll be a nice tour to show you some of the extent of the work that we've done and the attempt that we've made to bring in native voices into the experience. What I'm going to do first, though, is I'm going to just go through a few slides that give a bit of background on this process. And let me see if all this will work. And here we go. So the first thing I want to do is just read this very brief description of landscape. This has always been a topic of fascination for me in my life and career. And Norman Crowe is an architect and educator in Albuquerque and says that land and landscape are two very different things. A parcel of land as a commodity defined by its borders and judged by its economic potential describes a different world than the landscape of nature, seen as a vital part of the earth. And Norman, this is one of his illustrations that I think shows this relationship. You can see the 4 states represented, 4 corners, which is our boundary from our culture, but referenced or kind of overlaid and intermixing with that of the Navajo and the 4 sacred peaks that encompass the same area. So landscape has long been a great fascination for my work. And let me go to the next slide. I'm a technical artist, computer graphic artist. I've spent my lifetime working in feature film here in Los Angeles. But the last 12 to 14 years, I undertook a shift in my career to kind of take all those skills and apply them to the natural world and cultural heritage. And I'm not going to go, this is not a technical lecture, but just so you know, we're in a unique period in technology right now where natural features and landscapes can be acquired with relative ease. And this is actually, it's really down to as simple as very powerful DSLR cameras, maybe the occasional laser scanner, 360 cameras, and panoramic techniques. So very low impact to ultimately give you the impression of being in these locations in a VR headset. So what I've undertaken in the last 5 to 6 years, and Elizabeth and I are working together on the ONWARD project with the same agenda, is to capture many landscapes throughout the world and the Southwest and bring these to viewers to have direct experiences in a VR headset. These are all examples of work that I've assembled and consolidated into a commercial product called Blue Planet VR that is available now on Oculus and Steam. And I'm working with Oculus to bring it to the new Oculus Quest, which is kind of the first new mass market VR headset. But again, to show you a capture session that we've done, this is one of the sites. I'll show you some adjoining sites to this one. But this diagram on the left indicates the position of photographic shots that were taken as I walked the site and used a pole to elevate the camera. And the image to the right is not a photograph. It's actually a 3D rendering, full three-dimensional model of the result of all this photography. And this is what I'll be taking you through today. So here we can see a 3D model from that. This is actually just take without the photography applied, just the actual three-dimensionality. And as we apply the photography, we're brought into the real world. So with that, oh, and actually one more thing to mention about this is all this work embodies certain challenges that we've undertaken. And these are also kind of things that I believe in. And I think that having direct experience of cultural heritage sites within a powerful landscape through a virtual reality experience is a very, very powerful thing. And again, it's a way to provide direct experience, which again is always striven for in our lives. There's also great value and power to personal stories and voices that are implanted in this experience or within the landscape. So an embodiment and a revealing of some of these stories. And this is what I'll show you today. And then lastly, there's value and power to disseminating these experiences. And we are in talks with Oculus to try to bring these experiences to the public, among other venues. We were originally going to demonstrate this work or kind of premiere the work at Mountain Film in Telluride last May. Of course, I was scheduled with the pandemic. So we are now prepared, and it's actually just given us more time to further refine the work. And we're in a great position now to finally bring it to the public. So I think what I'll do now is let me stop this presentation and I'll open up the experience. Now, one thing I'm going to point out is you are going to hear background audio like you can hear right now, and then you're going to hear voices. But I decided not to explain this, not to narrate this experience, but let the experience narrate itself. So what I'm going to do is stand up, place my VR headset on, and take you through some of these sites. And you'll see my little hand controllers. Here's one right here. Reach out and instigate some of these voices. As a matter of fact, there's the first one. Okay.
Now the area below was used as a farming area, so you might have small rooms down there that represent an area where the farmers would stay, where the fields were being prepared, or the food was being harvested, so they wouldn't have to travel back up to this high place. And as you look around from these small farmsteads, you'll find areas where they were using grinding stones to process the foods that they were collecting, whether it is the foods that they grew or foods that they had gathered, and processing animals. So you'll find areas where they were making blades and arrowheads, kind of scattered throughout this landscape. So as you look down across the landscape, you have to imagine a lot of activity going on prehistorically, of people kind of making noise, talking to each other, joking and laughing, and just kind of carrying on. But it's a daily process, and so you have a process laid out on the landscape that essentially talks about not only the day-to-day, but also kind of the seasonal changes.
the one that we called Dripping Spring Canyon. That was for like winter use. My dad, when he was married to my mom, and he built a hook gun right there in that Dripping Spring Canyon. And then he make a trail way up there just to take his horses up there on top. There were a lot of grazing land. That's what the horse that they use for.
Breakfast was the biggest food, the biggest meal of the day, because when you go out to work in the cornfield or with the sheep, you don't know how long you're going to be out there. So breakfast was the biggest meal for the day, and we mostly during the summer after school is out, then we did her taking care of the sheep and the garden, the cornfield.
What you're looking at is a historical photograph of the same archaeological site from the 1930s. And you'll see in the photograph that there's better preservation and more standing walls. And this is just due to time and deterioration by Mother Nature, where the walls have collapsed and they're slowly sliding back into Mother Nature.
Monograph of head mapmaker Jerry Hansen, June 1937. Around the corner, we arrived at Cobra Head Canyon. We all pitched in and helped make camp. The cook tent was first erected, and then each man selected a site upon which to spread his bed, either under a tree or in the open, according to his fancy. Herb and I leveled off a place in the open and fastened a large tarp at the foot of the bed for which we could reach in emergency and pull up over us as a protection against the rain. We practiced this stunt repeatedly as to become proficient and called it our fire drill.
So now you're at Archaeological Site 3, and as you look at Archaeological Site 3, you'll notice the difference between Site 1 and Site 2. You'll notice and you'll see standing walls. Now, these standing walls have been here for hundreds of years. There is a process called wattled and daub, which is basically mud and some grasses, and it's just plastered by hand over the walls. Sometimes in the plasters you can find fingerprints of the person who actually put it up there. And this is just a way of adding a little bit of insulation to the walls. The rooms could be used for storage. They could be used to live in. And some of the rooms have evidence of being occupied. You'll see trails of black smoke up against the walls. They didn't have chimneys. They basically just had a hole in the ceiling where the black smoke would go out and the soot would collect. And that has been there for hundreds of years also. There may be some evidence also of the site being reused during historical times, probably in the 1800s to 1900s. Sheep herders may have reoccupied the area, kind of rearranged some of the shelters to make them more habitable for themselves, a place to keep their animals out of the weather, and it's just a place to spend some time while you're out on the landscape. You'll see is a kiva, and this is a ceremonial room built usually below the surface, if not built on the surface, and they're usually circular. In the room you will find a bench, you will find vent holes, because they were enclosed structures. You had to climb in from the top, and you would find your seat and you would begin. And so the beginning essentially would be a fire would be built. There would be smoke, it would be dark, it would be hot, and it would be stuffy. And so after you've taken your seat, the chanting would begin. And you would be drumming, and these would be foot drums with small holes on the floor, with skins placed across them tightly. So you would be able to make a drumming sound, or a small vessel filled with water and a tight skin, and you would tap on it lightly, and that would be the drumming. And so the drumming essentially and the chanting, the sound would carry not only through the kiva, but it would carry through the canyons. And so the echoing of the singing and chanting would carry all the way to archaeological site 2 as well as 1.
Okay, I'm going to take off my headset now and let me come back and join you. Okay, well, I hope that didn't make anybody too seasick. One thing, I tried to move very slowly as I was moving my gaze around the site. When you experience it firsthand in a headset, you can move much more rapidly and truly feel present. And of course, that's one of the great bits of magic with this technique. And I hope all of you get an opportunity to see this yourself at an ONWARD event, or when we disseminate it at different venues or online. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ron. That was incredible, Eric. Quite a nice taste of what's to come, and I'm really glad that it worked. Technically, that's always a wonderful thing. Anyway, I want to just mention again that we have now a little over an hour left for our online auction. And these are just a few of some of the amazing things that we have. There's a historic Navajo wedding basket that was donated by one of our board members from Navajo Mountain. Here also we have a few watercolor paintings that were made for this event by Abel Nash, a Hopi artist. And here's one of the wonderful necklaces that Lithuania was talking about. This one made by her mother Louise, and a handmade scarf also by Louise, who is a master crocheter and knitter. There is our auction website, and the website is also a link inside our chat. So I want to thank all of our wonderful speakers today, and to all of the donors to our auction. Thank you to Maddie Fair, our incredible producer and head of social media, who created the beautiful auction website and produced this great Zoom event, and to Allison for overseeing the chat. We want to acknowledge the many people in the Navajo Nation we have met at Navajo Nation Fair and Navajo Mountain over the past 5 years. Our thanks to the Little Salt family for their many years of collaboration with us. And we thank many in Navajo Nation for the support we have received for many parts of our project over the years. For those of you who are interested in our work, our website is listed in the chat along with 2 of our recent projects. The main website has blogs that include all of our activity to date, including our artist residency at Art Center, our many events in Navajo Nation, including the articles from the Navajo Times about our project, and our at-home feature series that we've done through the past year, and the new Spotlight Native Artist series, just to name a few. For those of you who would prefer to make a donation rather than participate in the auction, you may do so through our main website, through the donate button. So there's approximately 1 hour left. I hope that you all go visit this auction site and help us get through 2021. It is open, the site will be available until 6:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for attending this event, and have a great evening.